This week on the Appalachian Weekly News. A 19-year-old student has passed away from COVID-19. We'll have the latest updates on this story.
Members of the Boone community remember Breonna Taylor 7 months after her death.
And the Mountaineer football team is gearing up to play Louisiana after winning in a match against Campbell.
All of this and more on this week's episode of the Appalachian Weekly News.
Afternoon, and thank you for joining us on this Friday, October 2nd. Live from the Beasley Media Complex in Boone, this is the Appalachian Weekly News. I'm Katie Garceran.
And I'm Hadasa Rivera.
This was an awful week for the Appalachian family. A sophomore at App State passed away from COVID-19 complications Monday night. He is the first student to pass away in the UNC school system. Chad Dorrill was taken off life support after battling the virus for almost 2 weeks.
Chancellor Everett sent out a school-wide email explaining what happened. She says Dorrill began experiencing symptoms earlier this month, so he returned home and quarantined. After being cleared by his doctor to return to Boone, Dorrill began having additional complications. Kate Compton was friends with Dorrill. She says that Chad was a light.
The Chancellor and App State staff continue to urge students to practice social distancing, washing hands, and wearing masks. App State offers free walk-up testing every Saturday in September and October. Just bring your app card to the River Street parking deck from noon to 5.
Our thoughts and condolences are with Chad's family and friends.
And now, a moment of silence in memory of Chad Dorrill.
Today, we remember Chad by dedicating this episode of the Appalachian Weekly News to him.
Rest in peace, Chad. You will be missed.
The COVID-19 pandemic continues to rage on. There are 187 active student cases, 10 employees, and a total of 711 cases. This brings the cumulative case count up to 634 students, 36 employees, and 41 subcontractors since March 27th. Watauga County also passed 1,000 total cases on September 26th for a total of 1,004. Currently, 200 people are active with COVID-19 within Watauga County. App State students make up over half of the total Watauga County cases.
App State announced 3 new COVID-19 cases specifically associated with the football team. The athletics office announced yesterday that the football game scheduled for this Saturday is postponed out of a, quote, abundance of caution, end quote. The game is rescheduled for the first week of December. App State reported the cases are suspected to be related to an ongoing cluster found in August. 18 players are now quarantining after coming into contact with one of the active cases.
We have breaking news about new clusters on and around campus. Last night, 7 new clusters were confirmed by the university. There are 4 clusters in the White, Egger, Summit, and Living Learning Center residence halls. There are 5 active cases in White, 6 in Eggers, 5 in Summit, and 5 in the Living Learning Center. Another cluster has been identified within Kappa Alpha fraternity and Delta Sigma Phi fraternity. There are 8 active cases in Kappa Alpha and 14 active cases in Delta Sigma Phi. 5 cases have also been identified in the App State volleyball team. As of October 1st, 13 people are past the isolation stage.
Budget cuts due to COVID-19 forced campus dining to switch to non-sustainable to-go containers. Disposable cutlery, individually packaged condiments, and plastic foam containers are now being offered to students in the dining hall. The chancellor chose the cheaper option because of the number of to-go containers needed during the pandemic. The chief sustainability officer is Lee Ball. He says that, quote, "It doesn't make sense to potentially lose a couple of jobs over a short-term sustainability goal," end quote. The dining hall is continuing sustainability efforts by composting in the kitchen and dish room. Jennifer Maxwell is the program manager for the Office of Sustainability. She says students can do little things to help keep the campus green. These things include having a reusable water bottle, choosing meatless options, and only taking what you need. The school intends to return to their sustainable to-go options in the future.
The Watauga County Board of Education unanimously voted to set up a plan that will reopen in-person learning for grades K through 8. Beginning October 5th, kindergarten through 3rd grade students will return to school in person on the 2x3 Plan B flex schedule. Under the plan, half of students will attend school on Monday and Tuesday, while the other half attend on Thursday and Friday. Wednesday would be reserved as a remote learning day for all students. Overall, students will have 3 days of remote learning at home each week. Scott Elliott is the superintendent of Watauga County Schools. He says that the plan was put in place not only to protect Watauga County school students, but also the many teachers and volunteers from the university.
And it's not just about the university. All throughout our community, we are still not doing enough for people to protect themselves and to try to limit the spread of the virus. So I don't want it to be just about the university. All throughout the community, we need to be doing more to take this seriously.
For more information on the schedule, visit wataugaschools.org.
It's been over 7 months since Breonna Taylor was shot in her home. A vigil was held last week to advocate for justice. Our correspondent Xanayra Marin-Lopez had the chance to check it out.
A vigil for Breonna Taylor, a black woman murdered by the hands of Louisville police, was held at Cornerstone Summit Church in Boone last Friday. On March 13th, police officers broke down the door of Taylor's apartment where she was asleep with her boyfriend. The couple heard what sounded like banging on the door, and when plainclothes officers entered, her boyfriend shot 1 round from his gun. Police responded with several shots, 5 of which hit Breonna Taylor. She did not receive medical attention for more than 20 minutes and later died from her injuries.
Time and time again, we see how black women are the most disrespected, how they are the most neglected,
how we are the most consistent voting bloc. Black women show up and vote every single time, in off years and in presidential years. If one more person tells me to go vote, if one more person gets into our social media, messages any one of us, hey, let's go vote, I'm gonna throw my phone away.
The vigil was organized by Black in Boone and the App State Network of Black Alumni. Close to 100 members of the Boone community gathered both inside and outside the church, holding candles and flowers, reciting chants, singing songs, and hearing speakers. Black at App State invited black people to speak to the crowd in support of black women and about their experiences with racism in Boone.
It is September, and my mental health is already bad because of the racism I've experienced here.
You've been here 2 months!
That is what contributes to the system that allowed Breonna Taylor to die without any justice.
On September 23rd, a Kentucky grand jury did not file homicide charges towards 2 officers who fired shots into Taylor's home and said they were justified. Another officer was charged with, quote, recklessly firing rounds that endangered people in a neighboring unit, unquote, according to the Washington Post. Breonna still has not received the justice she deserves. This has sparked outrage across the country, inspiring protests and the vigil put on by Black at App State. The collective continues to support and hold events like such for an end to racial injustices and in support of Black Lives Matter. For the Appalachian Weekly News, I'm Xanayra Marin-Lopez.
Now let's go to Mia Mendez with an update on politics.
You know, Katie, I actually saw that Donald Trump announced that him and his wife have contracted COVID-19. Mia has an update on that story.
Hadasa, you are exactly right. We begin with the breaking news that the president and the first lady have both tested positive for COVID-19. Last night, President Trump announced on Twitter that he and his wife Melania had both tested positive for the virus. In the tweet, he said, quote, "We will begin our quarantine and recovery process immediately. We will get through this together," unquote. This morning, Trump's opponent, former Vice President Joe Biden, responded, tweeting, quote, "Jill and I send our thoughts to President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump for a swift recovery. We continue to pray for the health and safety of the president and his family," unquote. All 170 seats in the North Carolina State and Senate, as well as the House of Representatives, are up for election in November. In case you needed just one more reason to vote, General Assembly members passed legislation that directly affects the state, as well as the election of members to the UNC Board of Governors, which oversees the UNC system. The Senate candidates for Watauga County feature Jean Supin and Deanna Ballard. Jean Supin is running against the incumbent Deanna Ballard. The North Carolina House candidates for Watauga County are the incumbent Ray Russell and Ray Pickett. Last night, many of these candidates participated in the annual Watauga County Meet the Candidates Forum. The goal of the event was to create a space for candidates to inform the local community about their platform, goals, and objectives. Questions were asked in a round-robin format, with each candidate having their own opportunity to answer first while all answering the same questions. Despite the negativity in the national race, the meeting of candidates for local office was harmonious, with even commenting on how nice it was to see each other's names on the ballot. David Wilson Brown is running against the incumbent Virginia Fox for the U.S. House of Representatives. Fox was not at the event last night. Brown addressed the COVID-19 pandemic, saying that the national response is an embarrassment.
We're calling folks who work in our grocery stores essential workers. By God, we need to deliver and make sure that they have the proper coverage so that they know going to work they're not risking their health. These are people that oftentimes don't have the opportunity to stay home because they need to stay home because their kids are working from, doing school from home, or they have family members that are going to be at risk if they're exposed to them. These are things that we have to deliver better on for our people.
Ginsburg died September 18th from complications of metastatic pancreatic cancer after serving for 27 years. Ginsburg, who is known for being a pioneer in the fight for reproductive rights as well as gender equality, now leaves an open seat up for grabs. President Trump has recently nominated Amy Coney Barrett, a conservative federal appeals court judge. Senator Thom Tillis released a statement regarding the vacancy now needing to be filled. Quote, "There is a clear choice on the future of the Supreme Court between the well-qualified and conservative jurist President Trump will nominate and I will support, and the liberal activist Joe Biden will nominate and Cal Cunningham will support, who will legislate radical left-wing policies from the bench," unquote. Richard Burr also released a statement referring to Ginsburg as a trailblazer and tireless advocate for equality and opportunity for all Americans. Burr also stated, quote, "While she and I may not have agreed on many policy issues, I know her unique voice will be greatly missed by her beloved family, her friends, and her colleagues on the court," unquote. App State's Student Government Association is establishing the Task Force on Intergovernmental Mountaineer Relations through a joint initiative with the town of Boone. This task force will be the first of its kind to get students involved in all aspects of Boone politics. The mission behind its task force is to create an enhanced communication of the students' perspectives and priorities. We are only 31 days away from Election Day. The deadline to register to vote is October 9th, so make sure you register if you have not already. Speaking of Election Day, head to our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages at App Weekly News to tell us who you think won Tuesday night's debate. Early voting begins October 15th and runs through October 31st. Katie, Hadasa, back to you.
Thanks, Mia. I actually really need to get on that.
That's right, Katie. Voting this year is absolutely crucial. Now, let's go to Grace Smith for a weather forecast.
Lucky for us, the rainy streak is gone and the sun is here to stay. Fall is in full swing in the high country, and you are definitely going to be able to tell today. Today is sunny with a high near 60, with winds from the northwest blowing between 8 and 10 miles per hour. This evening it is expected to cool down to a low of 36, but mostly clear skies. Saturday in Boone is supposed to be sunny with a high of 60. Definitely a change from all the rain that we have been having recently. In the evening, it will cool down a bit with a low of 42, but the skies are expected to stay clear. On Saturday, Blowing Rock is supposed to be sunny with a high of 57 and a low of 40. Seven Devils is supposed to be clear with a high of 56 and a low of 40, and Beach Mountain is expected to have a few patches of frost, but will be sunny with a high of 51 and a low of 37. Sunday in Boone is expected to keep up with the sunny streak, and the temperatures are expected to rise to 57. Sunday evening has a 30% chance of rain with a low of 44. Monday will be sunny and clear with a high of 57 and a low of 42. Tuesday heats up to 59 degrees but stays on the sunny side. The low for Tuesday is going to be 46. Wednesday is expected to still be sunny with a high of 58 and a low of 47. Thursday's temperature jumps to 64 degrees and it should be mostly cloudy with a low of 61 in the evening. Finally, next Friday will be partially cloudy with a high of 62. My favorite part of the fall has to be the changing of the leaves. Our correspondent, Ayanna Willoughby, has the story of how Boone's leaves are changing colors.
Fall has finally arrived and these cooler temperatures are here to stay, Mountaineers. Pretty soon, the Boone community will be full of beautiful autumn colors. During the early fall season, the leaves change colors, creating beautiful scenes of nature in the high country. Peak week is the week that leaf colors will be the most vibrant. App State professor Dr. Newfield helps predict the dates of peak week each year.
So colors are starting to jump out. So if you're at above 4,500 feet, peak week will probably be somewhere around next weekend or so, or maybe a few days after that. If you're at the Boone level, which is 3,300 feet, and you're driving along the parkway, say between here and Grandfather and those places, it's probably going to be somewhere between the 10th of October and the 18th of October.
To learn more about Dr. Newfield's predictions, visit his Facebook page at Fall Color Guy. There are so many safe activities to do this spooky season while still complying with COVID-19 CDC regulations. Consider carving jack-o'-lanterns, taking a drive on the Blue Ridge Parkway, or baking some sweet treats.
We're gonna carve pumpkins. We're gonna drink pumpkin cold brews. And watch scary movies. Oh, we could dress up as the ghosts.
Yeah. Mountaineers have great plans for spooky season this year. Don't forget to keep a close eye on nature as the leaves continue to change. For the Appalachian Weekly News, I'm Ayanna Willoughby.
This week is supposed to be beautiful. Katie, Hadasa, I hope y'all are planning on getting outside.
Thank you, Grace. I'll definitely be going to the Parkway a lot more this week.
I'm actually headed there tonight. But on a different note, I've been hearing a lot of things about COVID clusters within athletics.
Let's ask our correspondent, Connor Davidson. Connor, what's happening with sports this week?
Yeah, that's exactly right, guys. There have been some new COVID clusters in athletics, but we'll get more to that in a second. On Saturday, App State football took on Campbell in its third game of the season. The Mountaineers played this game shorthanded as more than 18 players did not play after 3 players tested positive for COVID-19. Campbell took an early 13-7 lead over App State, but the Mountaineers bounced back quick and scored 45 straight points to eventually win 52-21. Junior running back Dietrich Harrington was the star of the show with 211 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns. This performance earned him Sun Belt Player of the Week honors. As a team, App State ran for 404 yards and 7 touchdowns. App State's next matchup against Louisiana has been postponed to December 4th or 5th. The postponement comes after there were 19 new positive cases of COVID-19 among members of the football team, 11 in players, and 8 in staff members. The next game for App State is now against Georgia Southern on October 14th. When the Mountaineers do return to Kid Brewer Stadium, we might see some fans making their ways into the stands. Our correspondent Abigail Watkins has the story.
Due to COVID-19 and App State's cases rising, faithful Mountaineer football fans have missed spending game day in Kid Brewer Stadium. But with Roy Cooper's recent order allowing a 7% capacity in outdoor venues, the Rock might see some faces in the upcoming weeks.
Regarding fan attendance, App State Athletics has stated, quote, "We will prioritize App State students, season ticket holders, and family members of football student athletes," end quote. This statement has not been updated since Cooper's press conference September 22nd, where he stated,
"That step will mean larger outdoor event venues will be able to open at 7% capacity starting next Friday, October the 2nd.
Senior football captain and wide receiver Thomas Hennigan tweeted earlier this year asking Governor Roy Cooper to allow a small amount of fans in the stadium this fall.
Many of us, it'll be our last opportunity to play and showcase what we can do in front of our families. I speak for all North Carolina universities when I say that this school is capable of creating a safe plan to allow parents to come to our games starting next week. College football is a sport that feeds off the crowd and environment, and without our fans and families, the game is not the same.
While we wait for a final decision regarding the rest of the season, don't forget to support the student athletes by cheering on the Mountaineers every game day from the comfort of your own home.
For more information on App State athletics, visit appstatesports.com. For the Appalachian Weekly News, I'm Abigail Watkins.
COVID-19 has also required the cheer team to make changes in how they cheer on the Mountaineers. Our correspondent Allie Powell has the story.
During this time of zero attendance in Kidd Brewer Stadium, the cheerleaders are feeling the loss of the infectious and exciting game day energy. Since the breakout of COVID-19, App State sports teams have had to change their schedules and routines to fit with guidelines and regulations. Even with the new safety rules put in place, this has not stopped the cheerleaders from supporting and rallying around their Mountaineers. Cheer coach Morgan Delgado shares how the team decided to cheer virtually in Kidd Brewer.
I work directly with the marketing department within athletics. So we were having these conversations, and the NBA had done the virtual fans, so that's where the idea kind of came from.
The game day routines for the cheerleaders are always all-day events and are definitely no small task. These days include getting all dressed up, participating in Mountaineer Walk, and arriving at the field 4 hours early to practice. Sophomore cheerleader Kenzie Porter discusses how her game day routine has changed since COVID-19 began.
It's insane how much it's changed, where if you do cheer that week, then you just have to get on there for about an hour, and you're just in your room by yourself with the game on so you can kind of watch it. And then if you're not picked to cheer that week, then you just kind of hang out. It's very different for sure.
Even though many aspects of game days have been altered, the cheerleaders are still doing what they do best, cheering and rallying around the App State community. Senior cheerleader Ashley Giordano elaborates on how the team is maintaining high spirits and spreading positivity.
We're mostly just trying to keep positive and, cheer on as much as we can and cheer on each other too. We're trying to keep each other's spirits up as well.
Even though the cheerleaders cannot suit up for every game day, they are finding new and creative ways to help support their Mountaineers. For the Appalachian Weekly News, I'm Allie Powell.
App State Volleyball's season opening series was postponed due to a positive COVID-19 case with one of App State's players. Since then, there have been 4 additional positive cases. Mountaineers were scheduled to play Georgia Southern in a 3-match series from September 25th to 26th, but that series will now be played at a later date. In addition, 2 matches against Coastal Carolina have been postponed. The Mountaineers are not set to play again until October 9th against South Alabama. App State women's soccer had mixed results in its last 3 games. Last Friday, the Mountaineers took on Troy. The game remained scoreless behind good defense and 2 saves from sophomore goalkeeper Carrie Eagleston. In the 88th minute, senior forward Tess Kearney scored on a corner kick that deflected off of a Troy player's back and into the goal. The 1-0 victory gave App State its 2nd win of the year. 2 days later, the Mountaineers took on South Alabama. The first half ended with both teams tied at 0-0, but in the second half, South Alabama got the best of App State and scored 3 goals to defeat the Mountaineers 3-0. Yesterday, App State took on the Citadel. This was a very well-defended game, and it ended in a 0-0 tie. The team now sits at 2-4-1. App State looks to bounce back against Coastal Carolina on Sunday. And that's all I have for sports this week. Katie, Hadasa, let's hope the women's soccer team can put one in the win column this week.
Thanks, Connor. Hopefully we see a couple more wins from the women's soccer team.
And now it's time for your High Country High Note. You've been walking around campus, you might just stumble into the prehistoric era.
Our correspondent, Kat Fast, has the story.
What's the oldest thing on campus? Some people might answer the buildings, some might even say the professors. But I say, it's my buddy Archie.
Okay, the statue may be new, but the Gorgitosuchus pekinensis is an extinct Aedosaur. Enter Heckard, a professor at ASU, identified the fossils in Raleigh in 2015. This gave senior lecturer Lauren Waterworth an idea.
I went down a YouTube wormhole of dinosaur recreation and was like, man, wouldn't it be great if we could have our own dinosaur sculpture in the department? but where would we put such a thing? And then it finally occurred to me that we have a rock garden with ample space, and we have an animal that one of our faculty has just gotten to name.
She then spoke with Heckard and Travis Donovan, an ASU assistant professor of sculpture.
His response was, "This would be an awesome project for my senior sculpture class. Let us do it." And so at that point it was like, okay, let's find some money.
They applied for a university research grant for the materials in spring of 2016. Donovan's students got to work in fall of the same year. After raising enough money to get Archie cast in bronze, he was finally installed in the Fred Webb Jr. Outdoor Geology Laboratory in spring of 2020.
Go give him a little pet. He's lonely.
Will do. With Appalachian Weekly News, I'm Kat Fast.
Most definitely be giving Archie a pet next time I see him.
That's a report this week. I'm Hadasa Rivera.
And I'm Katie Garceran. For all of us at the Appalachian Weekly News, thank you so much for watching.
We'll see you next time.